notion of human sacrifice in the Bible. Is there such a thing? Well, there are plenty of people that will swear up and down that no, of course not. But I beg to differ. In Exodus, we have what is sometimes called the Book of the Covenant, the earliest of the various so-called Mosaic law codes placed cheek by jowl in the Pentateuch. And this one is in Exodus 22, 29, that's 29 and 30, ritual concerns here, sacrifices and so on. You shall not delay to offer, well, you know how I like to read these, since it's Exodus. How about Charlton Heston? You shall not delay to offer from the fullness of your harvest and from the outflow of your presses. The firstborn of your sons you shall give to me. You shall do likewise with your oxen and with your sheep. 7 days it shall be with its mother. On the 8th day you shall give it to me. What's that again? What do you mean, give it to him? Is this like an infant dedication in church? You know, we commit him to you and your will, O Lord. No, this certainly, because of the parallel with the animals, means to sacrifice them, to kill them as an offering to God. The idea was it's the firstborn of any female, and since you are thanking God for the issue of the womb, God will reward you by making sure there's plenty more where that came from. If you were stingy and held back the calf or the lamb or the baby, well, you know, you're on your own. You might not have any more luck. This is sort of blood-chilling, and eventually the folks in ancient Israel thought so too, because in a later law code that we find actually earlier in the text, but that's just an accident of the editing, in Exodus 13, there's a great significant difference. Start in verse 11. And when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your fathers, and shall give it to you, you shall set apart to the Lord all that first opens the womb. All the firstlings of your cattle that are males shall be the Lord's. Every firstling of an ass you shall redeem with a lamb, or if you will not redeem it, you shall break its neck. Every firstborn of man among your sons you shall redeem. In other words, substitute an animal. You owe him to God, but he's willing to take an animal substitute. Now, that is a bit of a difference, right? If that little stipulation were intended in the other one, the other passage, surely it would say so. This represents a change, saying, right, it's you owe it to God, but he understands you're not exactly inclined to do that. Why don't you just offer an animal and we'll just say you fulfilled your obligation. That'll be good enough. Redeem, of course, just means to buy back. Well, things had become civilized, and probably the famous story of Abraham nearly sacrificing Isaac and being told at the last moment, now on second thought, why don't you sacrifice that ram instead? That story probably was circulated to get people to change over, something I would imagine didn't require too much persuasion. Now, this crazy thing comes up again in Ezekiel, who seems to be a bit upset about it. He says that he's talking about how the people of Israel were not faithful to God. Starting in Ezekiel 20:21. But the children of Israel rebelled against me. They did not walk in my statutes and were not careful to observe my ordinances, by whose observance man shall live. They profaned my Sabbaths. Then I thought I would pour out my wrath upon them and spend my anger against them in the wilderness. But I withheld my hand and acted for the sake of my name, that it should not be profaned in the sight of the nations in whose sight I had brought them out. Moreover, I swore to them in the wilderness that I would scatter them among the nations and disperse them through the countries, because they had not executed my ordinances, but had rejected my statutes and profaned my Sabbaths, and their eyes were set on their fathers' idols. Moreover, and here we go, I gave them statutes that were not good, and ordinances by which they could not have life, and I defiled them through their very gifts, sacrifices, in making them offer by fire all their firstborn, that I might horrify them. I did it that they might know that I am the Lord. What? What is that? Is that in the Bible? You see what he's doing here? Ezekiel knows that there was a time when people were offering infant sacrifices, frying, roasting the kids, like some did for the god Baal, in honor of Yahweh, and he doesn't even say they were wrong to do it. Right? He says, no, this was a commandment of Yahweh. He was sort of the Lord. He was sort of punishing them by, pushing them into even worse behavior? I don't think it's funny. It's just so outrageous. It's hard to imagine. And yet it is there in the Bible. You've at least got to give him credit for trying to explain it away or to get it away one way or another. Well, there's plenty more odd material of this kind in the Bible. And I guess I feel like people do have to be confronted with this stuff because of the tall claims they make for the Bible, that it's a paragon of virtue. Everything in it is infallible in fact and even more importantly in ethics. What do you do with this? And just one more thing. If you can say, if a Bible writer can say that God has issued evil commands, what does that say to you about revelation in general? I mean, people piously say God cannot lie, and so Scripture cannot err. Well, was he wrong on this little utterance? Oh boy, what a headache. And of course, the only way to get rid of that headache is to take a couple of tablets of biblical criticism and call me in the morning.